I'm in the Pacific Northwest right now. Roob?
I'm probably stuck in traffic.
Probably. This is the Eagle Eye Podcast. He's Reuben Frank. I'm Dave Zangaro. It's summer. We're taking some vacation, but we're not leaving you guys without pods. We're going to have one pod at least every week throughout the summer. So we have a mailbag here. We're recording this one a little bit ahead of time, but hopefully all these questions still make sense by the time you listen to it. I think they will. We're really in the dead period of the NFL, but we had a ton of great questions.
Really got some good ones.
Yeah, come in. So hopefully they'll spark up some fun conversations, and we'll just roll through them. Ready to start, Rube?
Yeah.
All right. This first one.
These are always fun. I enjoy these.
I do too. I really do. First one is from Billy Blake. What is the floor for the Eagles this year? Seems like anything short of being in the NFC Championship would be a significant failure. A good problem to have, but have to start from step one, climbing back to the mountain.
That's a really good question. And we just assume they're going to be really, really good. It doesn't always work out that way. Things happen. Injuries, bad ball bounces, funny, bad loss, upset. What is the floor for this team? I mean,
realistically,
I think the floor is 10 wins.
Yeah, so I wasn't thinking in terms of wins. I was thinking they have some injuries. They need to claw their way to win a wild card. The Cowboys win the division. I think that's the floor. They're still a wild card team, but it makes they're on the road in the wild card round. I think that will be the floor for this team.
I think if I go the wins, I mean, you're relying on other teams. Like you could win 10 games, certainly not make the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
And with 17 game schedule, maybe I should say 11, but I think it's 10 or 11. I think it's in there. And I don't think any team
9 wins made the playoffs last year, right?
Yeah. I don't think
8 wins if you're in the NFC South.
Yeah. Well, they're not.
They're not.
And who knows? I mean, teams, there could be surprise teams. I mean, who knows? There could be a surprise team in their division. I mean, it always happens at some team. So, it's easy to sit here in June and say the Eagles, Cowboys, and Niners are the class of the NFC, and that's what it looks like on paper in June. But things change, things happen, and they could be scrambling late in the season. And there's a reason Super Bowl losing teams don't get back there. So while I don't expect that to happen, when you ask about the floor, I do think it's 10 wins and scrambling for a road wild card.
Yeah, and I think injury luck is a big part of this. I know last year the injury luck, turnover luck, these aren't things. We practice these things. We do things you do everything in your power to control injuries and turnovers, but ultimately, there are things you can't control about that, especially injuries. So they were incredible.
And turnovers too. There was I can't remember what the stat was the second half of the year. It was something like 78% of fumbles by either team were recovered by the other team. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if that's 100% luck, but
there's some luck involved.
There's some luck.
I remember I asked Jonathan Gannon about injury luck halfway through the season, and he reacted as if he had never even thought of the possibility that luck was involved. Yeah. I understand that from a coach's perspective because you're just trying to have control over everything, but there's always going to be some regression to the mean with things like that. And we saw that with turnovers last year. We didn't see it with injuries. They were incredibly lucky with injuries. To have 22 of 22 opening day starters healthy in the Super Bowl is wild.
Maybe that's what Monty Ossenfort told him to say. No, and we talked about that. I mean, middle of the season when those turnover numbers were insane, that was a big story. This can't continue. It's just mathematically almost impossible.
Yeah.
And it didn't.
Yeah. And injuries, last year, their only significant injuries were Derek Barnett and Marlon Tuipulotu, right?
And Jalen for 2 games, but yeah.
But I mean, like season enders.
Term, yeah.
Those are only season enders.
Yeah, some training camp bodies, but yeah, that was it. And really, all the guys who did get hurt, it was maybe 4 or 5 games. Goddard was 4 or 5 games. CJ.
Even the year before, remember when we found out Nick puts the player's numbers on his visor? No one talked about that this year because there were only 2 numbers up there.
Yeah. Isn't it crazy the Eagles don't have an interception in any of their 4 Super Bowls?
Okay.
We're just on the subject of
Okay.
turnovers. That just blows my mind. How's that possible? They've never, and even in their last NFL championship in '60, they didn't have an interception. They had one in a championship game since 1948, 75 years ago. Okay, next. No, that wasn't a question, but it was an answer.
Next one from the Scott Snyder.
The Scott Snyder.
Yeah.
Not a Scott Snyder.
The maybe it's like the Ohio State, the Scott Snyder. Do you think the Eagles will look for another linebacker, or are they set? And another question, will joint practices be the only time starters get to work instead of preseason games? Let's start with the linebacker question.
Yeah, it's probably the question I get asked the most. I think they have to add someone.
If there's one position,
They have to.
it's that or safety, and I think it's that.
Yeah. Yeah, I do as well.
I feel better about safety.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I just can't imagine going into a season with this group. So we'll see, but there's not a lot out there.
Not a lot out there, but CJ Gardner-Johnson was not technically out there last year, and the Eagles were able to trade for him. So
Right.
I think that's a possibility. Yeah, and if there's one spot you look at and I think you're really worried, it's linebacker. It's right now it's Nakobe Dean and Nicholas Morrow, maybe Christian Ellis, Davion Taylor, Sean Bradley.
Christian Ellis working his way in the conversation.
He is. But this is a Super Bowl team, right? Like, can you go into a season with that at any position?
Yeah. Well, you trust Howie to, I mean, he'll do whatever it takes within reason without giving up a lot. He'll be scouring the waiver wire, and if there's a guy who's unhappy, he can get in a trade. But right now, and they have to know it. I mean,
They know it, and it's kind of like and they'll pretend. No, we're happy with. They were happy with their receivers until they traded for AJ Brown. They were happy with their safeties until they traded for CJ Gardner-Johnson.
yeah.
We can see what's going on.
Are you surprised they let TJ Edwards go so easily and quickly and seemingly without it?
It was strange how quick it happened.
It was 15 minutes, right?
Yeah.
It was 15 minutes in.
No. TJ's a nice player. You want to have a TJ Edwards on your team. I don't know if you want to pay a TJ Edwards.
Did he get
Not like
a ton?
not a ton, but we know the way they value positionally.
And the fact that he signed so quickly for such a low number makes you think that the Eagles could have been in the conversation, but they're not. He's not here, so move on.
His second question, will joint practices be the only time starters get to work instead of preseason games?
I don't really understand the question. Get to work against
Get work.
each other?
No. Will starters work in joint practices and preseason games, or will they just work in joint practices?
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Maybe a series or two. I think preseason games are rapidly becoming irrelevant for this franchise, maybe for a lot of franchises. We're already down from 4 to 3. I mean,
We're going to be down to 2 pretty soon.
yeah, I would think so. And then 18 regular season games. Yeah, I don't expect them to play much at all.
Joint
If
practices, they value those joint practices, and they get 3 sessions this year.
That's weird that they're only doing one with the Colts.
The Colts, I think it probably stems from last year in Miami. I wouldn't burn a question on this to Sirianni, but they went to Miami last year, and they were supposed to have 2 joint practices, and then the Dolphins were sick on day 2, and maybe they thought they just got enough work in that
See,
one
my
se-
theory was that it was Doug Peterson, actually. It was like the last thing you want as a first-year head coach is joint practices, because you want to really focus on putting in your stuff, worrying about your guys. You don't want another team. He says the second year, you start doing that. I just wonder if Shane's maybe like, I just want one day of this, and I just want my guys to.
Oh, maybe.
It's just a thought. I know Doug was big on that, and he liked joint practices, but they didn't do them in 16.
I think that's probably a wise thing.
Yeah.
I get that. You're installing. You got a lot to worry about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Should be some fun work, though.
They're fun.
Yeah. Getting the Browns again will be fun.
That was a fun couple of days out there.
It was. Yeah. Get to reconnect with my buddy Myles Garrett when he's here in town.
The most fun was trying to find a place to do the podcast in Berea.
There were no places.
We did the last one on a picnic table.
Yeah, up front. It wasn't great. So if you listen to that podcast, we apologize.
We're like, it's nice and quiet here. And then as soon as we start, like a tractor trailer goes by 10 feet away.
Yeah, there was nowhere to do it.
No, anyway,
rough. All right. Next question comes from Grims88. Who are some linebacker free agents? I'm using Twitter handles here, which is a little tough. Who are some linebacker free agents the Eagles should be targeting and why?
I mean, there's not a lot out there. Anthony Barr's out there. He's one guy. I was just looking at some names who I don't know how much he has left.
Yeah, he's kind of like I don't know if you want, he's kind of pass rusher. Like I'm looking at I have the list in front of me from a
he
tracker.
Was great when he was with the Vikings.
Yeah, a while ago.
Started.
He would have made sense if Gannon was still here if they really ever ran any Zimmer stuff, which they didn't. At least in year 2.
He started 10 games with the Cowboys last year. But he's a bigger guy.
Yeah. How about a guy like Quan Alexander? Think he has anything left?
I don't know.
No.
Yeah.
Deion Jones is for a long time has been talked about as this hybrid guy that a lot of players have modeled their game after, but his career hasn't really been that great. Like he had a peak. He was a Pro Bowler in 2017, and everyone was like, he had 6 interceptions in his first 2 years. Everyone's like, oh man, this safety to linebacker switch, he's the guy everyone's going to model it after. And since then, he's been okay.
Saw him in joint practices last year.
We did.
I think if they do sign a backer, it's going to be a bigger guy. I just think, there's not a ton of linebackers out there like 240, but.
Is that Cunningham? Take the tires on him? I don't know. There's probably a reason these guys are unsigned.
Yeah. It's a good challenge for their pro scouting.
Is it more likely they pull off a trade?
I don't know. It's a good question. I think it's likely that somebody at some point gets cut that they like.
Really?
Yeah. But now you're talking about, CJ came in 8 days before the season opener?
Yeah.
It might be something like that. They just cut this guy. Let's get him in here. Because you can probably get away with playing a guy 20 snaps the first week, just kind of acclimate him.
Yeah, if N'Kobe's your linebacker stays on the field, which he's going to be.
Yeah.
In sub packages. The Patrick Queen one is interesting to me. I would, if I'm the Eagles, I'd be very interested in him. The Ravens declined his option, so he's entering a contract year. Now, the Ravens are also a team that's not going to give him away.
Yeah.
And they're a team that they think they're going to be pretty good this year. So, but
he's up after this year.
Yeah. I'd be interested in Patrick Queen.
Good player.
Because I know some people are going to think about Devin White down in Tampa. I think that's going to be much more costly.
Maybe, kind of kidnap them when Ravens are. Oh no, we're not doing joint practice with the Ravens. Have a preseason game again.
Preseason game, yeah. Which is going to be one heck of a tough test with these Ravens. They do not lose in the preseason.
Yeah. Well, if they do trade Patrick Queen, it's going to be after that game. They'll need him.
They need him to win that one.
They need him to win that game.
I know you like John Harbaugh.
Yeah.
Defend that.
I can't.
Okay. It's really goofy.
Yeah.
It is, right?
It is.
I get in a certain point of preseason game, let's win this. We might as well win it. And said we'd rather win it than lose it. But to really care about it is so goofy.
I agree.
Okay. Move on.
Yeah.
I like that you're I'm not even going to try to defend
Can't even. No, I got nothing.
From Scott Pollock 16. Who is the head chef over at the NovaCare Complex? Is there a menu or do the players just eat what they are served? It's a good question. It's a little behind the scenes. I do not know who the head chef is anymore.
Well, we're not allowed in there anymore.
Yeah, it used to be a guy named Tim Lopez, who was really good. He had a great podcast.
Yeah.
I think it was called Feeding the Birds.
Yeah.
Interesting. But we can give you a little insight on what the cafeteria is like from our recollection. It's not like a school cafeteria where you got one option. Like, they have options.
Yeah.
And it's really good food. They do a nice job, but it's normally like a buffet style. So they go in, they get their tray or a little to-go box, and they can take back in the locker room. And it's like a different menu each day with like multiple options. There's always a salad bar.
Really good salad bar.
Yeah, there's like a sandwich bar they'll make, which I don't know how much the players are eating the sandwich bar. But then there's hot food too. Like, they'll be like, they have a big smoker out back. So sometimes we'll get the scent of smoked meats, and you're like, oh man, I didn't even bring a lunch today.
No.
That's a tough one. But it's pretty good.
There's always
food.
burgers. They always have burgers that are really good. There's all kinds of there's big plates of fruit, and it used to be a lot unhealthier. I mean, when Chip was here, it got healthier.
Yeah, and they have dietitians on staff. Our producer Ben asks, are there lists of players and how many calories they're supposed to eat in a day? It's not like posted on a board, but they have plans, especially for players where weight is an issue one way or the other.
Right.
So it all kind of works in unison with the dietitians, and then like the staff to be like, hey, we need to bulk this guy up or slim this guy down. And they still do smoothies. That's a Chip mainstay. The smoothies are still around. There's a little like a smoothie bar right outside the locker room, and players have smoothies that are created for them.
Right. So they come off the practice field, and they'll be like linebacker smoothies, or some of them have their names on them.
Yeah, individual players.
Yeah. And then they have the trivia question, which is by the smoothies.
Yeah, sometimes it's like a riddle.
Oh, they did more like a riddle. Yeah, not a trivia question. But it used to be back in the day, we could go in the cafeteria while practice started. So because the players weren't in there, and we would have run of the calf, and we bring our food back to the media. Well, at first we could eat in there.
Yeah.
Then they're like, well, you can't eat in here anymore, but you can bring your food back to the media room. Then they got rid of the media room, moved us half a mile away into the frat house, former Naval Hospital building. I think it's still used sometimes for that. we hear some surgery sounds coming from the attic. But yeah, the food's always been good. It's healthy, and there's a lot of options. The players seem to like it.
They do. And there's always like it's fun. A player will bring one of those like not styrofoam, they're like probably very recyclable cardboard back to the locker room. You see everyone else kind of like taking a peek. What do they got today? What do they got today?
That used to be us.
It used to be us. They had what day was wing day? They used to do like smoked wings.
Oh yeah.
And they had different sauces. And there was one called Agent Orange, and it was like a sweet orange sauce.
You like that?
It was me and one other guy liked it. Chef Tim used to keep it around for us.
Tim was awesome.
Yeah, good. I don't know where he went. Good dude.
Like, you would go in there and Tim would be like, Roob, what can I make you? What do you want?
Mm-hmm.
You ever have their pizza? They used to have pretty good pizza in there. Actually, the pizza they brought up,
it was very good.
Well, we're not allowed to say we were there the other day, but that pizza was pretty good. Make their own pizza. Yeah. Anyway.
All right. Moving on.
Yeah.
Next one from comment with a 3. In an effort to try and keep Penny healthy,
3 ent.
Could you see the Eagles utilizing his speed and power and limiting him to red zone / goal line snaps? I picture him in a similar role as 2020 Kareem Hunt on the Browns.
I'm not sure that would really be his strength.
And the Eagles honestly have a really good goal line runner. His name's Jalen Hurts.
And Boston is really, really good on the goal line too. I don't know how much. I don't really know if he'll be dressed out or on the team, but
I think Penny's going to be. Hey, this is a Penny series.
Yeah, and the next Penny series might be in the next half. I do think
if you're going to limit him, I think that's the way you do it.
I do think that they're going to have to go into this accepting that this has been his career. He just hasn't been able to stay healthy. And I mean, they're so like hyper aware of these things, nutrition and rehab and keeping guys healthy. We saw it last year. The whole Ted Rath problem. But Ted Rath just gets his hands on him and says, look, why do you keep getting hurt? Let's work on this. Where do you need to get stronger? Course. And there've been different injuries with him, but I do think they will be really smart with him, which doesn't guarantee he'll stay healthy, but they'll try to do everything they can to minimize the chance that he gets hurt again. If that means no more than 6 carries a game, 7, 8 carries a game, touches, then that's what it'll be. The problem is he's so good that, if he's sitting there 5 carries for 78 yards in the first half, say, well, you only give him 1 more carry, you get greedy. It's like, we just got to keep feeding this guy, and then he gets hurt. So they're going to have to be smart about it, balanced about it, but still try to get the most they can out of it. And it's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah. All right, next one from Benjamin Enck. What are the chances Trey Sermon stands out in camp and becomes a breakout player? Tons of questions around Swift and Penny being long-term reliable backs. Kenny has flashed, but has reached his ceiling, and Boston is average at best besides New York Giants games. First off, Benjamin, though, I don't know if all that's true.
Kenny has reached his ceiling.
I don't know if Kenny's reached his ceiling. Maybe Boston's average, but that's okay. Yeah, but look, Trey Sermon, we get more questions about Trey Sermon than any player on this roster. Fans really like him. And I'm not 100% sure why that is. I think it's kind of the mystery behind this guy who's been on the roster for a year that we haven't seen.
2 carries for 19 yards and kind of set the whole city in a frenzy.
Look, I think they really do like Trey Sermon.
Yeah.
Now,
Nick brought him up on his own the other day.
He also brought up Kennedy.
Kennedy Brooks.
Yeah.
Brooks Kennedy.
I always have to pause because I don't want to. I always screw it up because we've done it so many times jokingly, and now I do it for real.
I don't even know. It's Kennedy Brooks, right?
Yes.
You just said Kennedy.
Well, I was going to cover it. I think they do like Trey Sermon, but I don't see a spot on the roster for him.
Well, you also are dealing with some guys who've been hurt, and he's different. He's a bigger back.
If one of the 4 players that we think are going to be on the team isn't on the team, who is it?
If one of the 4 players we think is going to be on the team isn't,
Swift, Penny, Gainwell, Scott.
Penny.
I think Penny too. There's a chance he gets hurt. They didn't give him any. Like, there's $600,000
very little
in guaranteed money, which is a lot in real person money, not in NFL money.
It's a lot in Benjamin Enck money.
We don't know that.
No, it's true. He could be a multi-billionaire.
Yeah. I think a lot of multi-billionaires listen to the pod.
Let me check my list of billionaires, see if Benjamin Eck's on there.
Yeah.
Enck. Yeah, I mean, they didn't give any of these guys a ton of money, but I could, and I think I'd say Boston's next.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the thing about Sermon that intrigues people is he was a high pick. He was a 3. The Niners wanted to keep him. The Eagles claimed him. I think the Niners were trying to get him on the practice squad. The Eagles claimed him and kept him around all year. And I think the plan was that he would be on the team, but then Swift and Penny became available. But I'm looking forward to seeing Sermon in training camp and seeing what he's got, just because we are dealing with some people that have been hurt at that position. And
any chance he plays well enough in training camp and preseason to beat out, maybe not completely healthy, but on the field, Rashad Penny? Probably not.
Probably not. But he could play well enough to kind of get their attention. And look, if somebody gets hurt, we feel good about this guy.
All right. Move on to the next one.
Let's do it.
This is from John Johnson Whip.
WIP, I think.
Oh, is that okay? That's our buddy John Johnson. Candlebox and Gin Blossoms, this is a question for you, I believe, are sharing the stage for one night only, but you have to sit through 2 hours of Billy Joel first. What does Roob do?
John's always asking me Gin Blossoms questions. Candlebox, they're okay. Candlebox is okay. I don't hate Billy Joel, okay? I think there's kind of a misconception. I think he's a really, really good, writes really good melodies, really good music. I think he's got a real flair for melody. I just think he writes awful lyrics.
So you don't think he's a hack?
I mean, yeah. I mean, his lyrics are just, but like The Strangers, I think The Strangers is a really good record, front to back. Scenes from Italian Restaurant is a great song, which I love playing on the piano.
My favorite Billy Joel song is "Only the Good Die Young." I like that song.
That's from The Stranger, right?
I don't know.
I believe.
His the worst song ever is "We Didn't Start the Fire." In 8th grade, my social studies teacher, I think Miss Brown, made us write our own version of that with events that had happened in our lifetimes.
Uh-huh.
It had to be like people had to read their. It was awful. It was not a good exercise. It was not fun. It was bad. No one enjoyed it. Billy Joel, it would have made him regret ever writing the song.
But he does regret it. I mean, he said he's kind of embarrassed by it. So I give him credit for that. He seems like a great guy.
I always like the story about him. Like, you ever hear like he when he got obviously super popular and he started not selling tickets to the close rows of his concerts because he was realizing like all these suits would buy these and they like weren't real fans. So he would have his like people go find fans from like the top levels, bring them down to fill in the
people,
first few rows.
He's for the people. I'll give you my list of top 5 Billy Joel songs to play on the piano. I'll go number 1, Root Beer Rag. I won a talent show freshman year of college. I won $100, which
a lot of money back then.
Freshman year of college.
Oh,
that was a lot of money. Yeah, that was like
money was still backed by gold.
Root Beer Rag number 1, which I think is from Street Life Serenade. Scenes from Italian Restaurant number 2. I like playing that Ballad of Billy the Kid.
Okay,
I like that one.
I like that one.
Yeah, maybe I'll give you my top 3. I can't think of any others, but yeah, I would definitely sit through 2 hours of Billy Joel to see Candlebox. And Gin Blossom is one of the more underrated bands out there. Everyone knows their couple of hits, but their catalog is incredible. Really great band.
Okay, moving on.
Yeah, and they played outside our hotel at the Super Bowl.
Gin Blossoms,
yeah. They played a free show right outside our hotel, and we were at Eagles availability at the same time. We missed it.
Next one from a great Twitter handle, Matzo Ball Hoop.
Matzo Ball Hoop.
rank the full 4 Bulldogs that we presume will get significant playing time, in parentheses, Davis, Nakobe, Nolan, Carter, based on what you think their impact will be this year. So we'll go from...
I want to know how he got the handle Matzo Ball Hoop.
It's a good one.
Okay. So Ringo, we're not including Ringo in this?
Yeah, it's those 4.
What their impact will be. Okay. You want to take the first crack at it? You want me to?
I'd start off with Carter. I just think he's going to be an immediate starter, impact player, the most talented player of those 4. And he's going to have the most defined role.
You don't think Nakobe's going to have the most defined role?
Well, I think Carter's going to make more of an impact. I have Nakobe second.
I'm going to go Nakobe and then Carter.
Okay.
Just a hunch.
Yeah. And then Davis at third, who I think is still very important. Like, these top 3 in any order are very important to the team's success.
Yeah.
I think Nolan Smith is last just because of where he is on the depth chart. He's the 4th edge rusher.
But Nolan Smith could play 25 snaps a game and get himself eight sacks.
Yeah, and I think 25 is probably low. Like, so I looked at last year, the 4th edge rusher became Patrick Johnson. He played 19% of the snaps, and they brought in like Robert Quinn, who took snaps, and I know he existed. So like, and Johnson ended up as 4th with 19%. So like that would be the absolute floor for Nolan Smith. So I think like 25 is still low.
What do you think the odds are that they re-sign Robert Quinn? I'm sorry.
Not great.
All right, that's a good question.
Not great. Yeah, so I think Smith is 4th. So I went Carter, Dean, Davis, Smith. You're going Dean, Carter, Davis, Smith.
Yes.
Okay. I think that's fair. We're pretty much on the same line there. I just have Carter ahead and you have Nakobe ahead.
Thanks for the question, Matzo Ball Hoop.
Catch all
I
the
just
sports.
picture like a small like hoop and like taking matzo balls and playing, like little game of basketball with the matzo balls.
Yep.
That's how I picture it. Okay.
Catch all the sports action and more. Rivers Casino Philadelphia. Whether it's the money line or the pass line, there's something for everyone in a great sports book. Rivers Casino Philadelphia. Philly loves a winner. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right. We have some more questions. We're about halfway through here. We're doing okay on time. We'll probably speed it up maybe a tad here. Let me find my where the heck is my spot? Here we are. All right. Next one from B. Chromie. Question relates to a new rule to allow an emergency QB. Do you know the rationale for NFL limiting activation to 45 players on game day as opposed to full 53? The non-active players are still drawing a paycheck. So what is the reasoning with this policy? I'll handle this. So it's kind of to influence competitive balance. Like if one team has a few injured players and the other team doesn't, like the NFL's theory is that it will be unfair if one team has like 53 healthy players and the other team has 49, so that's where it starts. But I'm kind of with you. Like I'd rather just have 53 players active and let them play. Where do you land on that?
Yeah, I'm kind of there as well. Yeah, I think the whole thing is silly. I understand why they do it the way they do it, but I would have them all. I
think it's silly that they created this new quarterback rule, which all it's going to do is ensure that teams keep 3 quarterbacks on their active roster, and then they get to play one of them if there's injuries. But there used to be a rule or provision in this, and then everyone fought back and said, well, we should use that spot on any player, and they did. And now a few years later, like it's cyclical, and it comes back, and we're like, oh, we need quarterbacks. Yeah. You had the option to keep a 3rd quarterback active, and no one did it.
I think they should do whatever the Niners want.
Oh, they are. Good news there for you. All right, you ready for the next one here?
Yeah.
Next one is from Anthony, and then a bunch of numbers. It might be his phone number. I don't think I want to give that out.
Enough numbers to be a phone number.
No, maybe it's a partial phone number. It starts with a 609, which is my area code. So that's what it made me think. All right.
Dave lives in the 609.
Roob, how about a list of you and Dave's top 10 songs about space?
Top 10 songs about space. I jotted down a few.
I have a few jotted down. I did a top 10.
Did you? Good for you.
Yeah. But to tell you what, I didn't put a ton of effort into it, so I probably missed songs. I looked up lists of songs, space songs, and then picked my favorites from them.
How do you want to do this?
Want me to give you my top 10?
Sure. I'll bet we have a lot in common.
You think so?
Yeah.
I have Bad Moon Rising.
Okay.
At 1.
Isn't that great? What's that movie? I know I don't really talk about movies, but American Werewolf in London. You ever see that?
Yeah.
When that song kicks in.
I love CCR.
Yeah. Really? Oh, that's like the only band we both like.
No, we have a lot of shared interests.
Yeah.
I was in Argentina once in this little town of La Villa de Angostura, I think. And we're on this little strip downtown, and me and my buddies stop into a little bar, and there's a CCR cover band.
Really?
In this little town in Argentina. These guys did not speak English very well. They knew the heck out of some CCR.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. Were they playing like deep catalog stuff or just the hits? Or
mostly the hits.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, they didn't have a lot of competition down there for other CCR. It was impressive.
Okay, that's a good one.
I have Space Oddity.
Yeah.
Number 2, Rocket Man 3.
Okay.
Total Eclipse of the Heart at 4.
Bonnie Tyler?
Yeah.
That's an awful song.
It's a great song. 5, I have Satellite by Dave Matthews Band.
Satellite by Velvet Underground, maybe.
Okay.
Go ahead.
This is my list, by the way.
I
this is
understand.
Dave's list at the top. It says, not Roob's interjecting, making comments about Dave's list.
Go ahead.
6, Intergalactic by the Beastie Boys.
I knew that was coming.
That was my childhood. I love that jam. 7, Here Comes the Sun. Is that? It has a sun in it.
George Harrison.
8, Black Hole Sun.
Okay.
9, Satellite of Love. And 10, E.T. by Outkast.
I don't know that one. We have 3 in common.
Okay.
Here Comes the Sun, Space Oddity, and Rocket Man. My other 7 are Spaceman by Harry Nilsson, Space Truckin' by Deep Purple, Man on the Moon by R.E.M.
Oh, that's good.
Fly Me to the Moon. I don't know who that's by, but
Frank Sinatra?
I don't know who did the original.
I don't
think it was Sinatra.
No?
Was it Count Basie, maybe.
Everyone knows it as a.
The first recording was made by Kay Ballard.
Oh wow,
Kay Ballard, wasn't she on like one of the game shows like Hollywood Squares or something? Anyway, I lost my list. Okay, what else do I have? I have Starman, another Bowie.
Mm-hmm.
Bowie really was obsessed with space.
I get it.
Man Who Fell to Earth and all that. Man in the Moon by Nectar, British band, prog band Nectar. Just played in North Jersey a couple nights ago. I once saw Nectar play a secret show in a hotel in off the turnpike in like Fort Washington. It's a long story. And my number 10 is Why Does the Sun Shine by They Might Be Giants, which is an old kid song. Yeah, remember that song? The sun is a massive incandescent gas,
No,
gigantic
I don't know that.
nuclear furnace. Yeah. So They Might Be Giants does a cover of that. So that's my my top 10.
Yeah, I'm sure there are others. Like
No, that's it. There's no others.
I didn't spend a ton of time on it. We had a few.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was a good question.
All right. Next one. McAllister 9804. If the Eagles do use Cam Jurgens at right guard this year, will that hamper his development at center when Kelsey retires?
I don't think so. It's a fair question. I don't think so. I think the more you play, it helps you. Mm-hmm. I just think if you play, it's not. I mean, they're kind of similar positions. There's some differences as far as your stance and obviously snapping the ball, leverage, but I don't think so. I think the more snaps you get as a young player, the more it helps you.
Yeah, I think short term it's fine. Now, if you're Isaac Seumalo and you're like 5-6 years in, well, guess what? Now you're a guard. Or if you're Lane Johnson, eventually move to left tackle, and then 7 years in, you're the best right tackle in football. Well, now you're a right tackle. But there have been other cases. I covered Ben Jones early in his career, started off at guard, then moved to center, which was his more natural position. And I think that's kind of more in line with Cam Jurgens. I still think he's a more natural center. I think he can play guard, and I think he will play guard. But, as long as it doesn't go like too many years deep into his career.
Right.
I think that's where you start to maybe see a little. I remember asking Isaac, like 5 years in, just one of those days where not a lot going on. With Isaac, can you still play center? He said, I mean, I guess it's been
the longest interview you ever did.
Yeah. I think the longer it goes, the harder it is, but I think that'd be fine for now. Next one?
Yeah.
Mr. Paul Rudy. Why does it always feel like linebacker and safety are lower priorities for this team? Many last-minute acquisitions and or experimenting with potential rather than an attempt to solidify those positions. It feels like that because it is.
Yeah, and it's always going to be that way as long as Howie's here.
Especially linebacker.
Safety,
they've made some exceptions. They paid Malcolm.
They made some exceptions at linebacker.
They brought in Rodney as a free agent.
Bradham, they gave him that second contract.
Yeah, but more exceptions at safety.
They drafted Kendricks in the second round.
Now we're going back to 2012.
That was 11 years ago. Yeah.
Like more recently, I was drafting Sidney Brown in the third round, high third round, which is like Davion Taylor was 103 in the third round. Not exactly the same allocation of resources.
Yeah. It's just
they traded for CJ last year. They would have re-signed him to a long-term deal. Yeah.
It's really linebacker, and it's really that's what the analytics say, and they win with TJ Edwards. You win with TJ Edwards, who's an undrafted guy. That's just they run these guys in and out, and
I think that's why they experiment with potential, is because they're lottery tickets. Like if you get all these players, you're just hoping you throw them against the wall and a couple of them stick and you can go out there and play. Now the problem with that is you end up with guys like Nate Gary and Camus Grugier-Hill and all these players who are like, they're okay, but you're just getting the most out of them.
Yeah. But I don't think it's going to change anytime soon.
Yeah, probably not. At least not to put like major resources.
But I mean, Nakobe,
3,
who they wouldn't have taken in the second round.
Well, they said they would have taken him.
Well, they didn't take him.
Yeah.
So they're looking for value there. And we'll see if they got it.
Next one from Clemson Fan 200. Who are, in parentheses, if any, some undrafted free agent guys who have stood out early in summer drills?
Yeah, that's a tough one. You don't want to.
It's tough. I'll say Mekhi Gardner had that nice interception.
Right.
And then he got reprimanded for punting the ball after. So I don't blame him. It was a nice pick. So he made a play in it's tough. I think this Clemson fan is probably looking to hear about Joseph Ngata, who we haven't really seen him make plays. He had one mistake that Nick Sirianni got on him for.
It was a catch.
It was a catch, and he cut it inside, and Sirianni yelled at him. But, I also don't think that's a bad thing to get yelled at.
No.
You're getting yelled at, they think you can get something out of you.
Right.
And he's a big dude, looks the part. He has size.
He does.
I have to see him once the pads go on, but he's someone I'll be watching in camp.
Any of these guys, any of the undrafted rookies that you're especially interested in seeing in camp?
Aside from the punter, because, of course, we watched the punter.
Ty Zentner.
Trevor Reed from Louisville, very athletic offensive tackle prospect. He kind of, they've had other guys, like going back to Sua, just this raw, super athletic, talented player that needed a lot of work. That's Trevor Reed to me.
Uh-huh.
And I'm all in on giving Jeff Stoutland projects. I don't know if he'll make the active roster, but they've also kept guys think Brett Sua-Opeta, Dylan Gordon, there's Josh Sills last year. They've kept guys, undrafted offensive linemen that think have some potential. So if there's a spot where you think, okay, maybe they'll use a roster spot on a guy that might not really be rosterable, but they like his potential, he's someone who makes sense to me. Any of them for you?
Ben Van Sumeren?
Linebacker, super athletic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll see how quickly he picks.
Michigan kid.
New to the position.
Michigan State, sorry.
Yeah, new to the position. We'll see how he picks it up. And I guess Eli Ricks, just because at a point not all that long ago, he was a pretty highly regarded prospect.
Yeah, I mean, on all those way too early mock drafts after the 2022 draft, he was a first-round pick. You have him in there?
I think it was my first pick overall.
I
did have Eagles taking Keely Ringo. I'm going to get as much mileage out of that as I can.
You've never mentioned that. All right,
but it is hard to tell with those guys because there's no pads on. They're not getting reps.
I do think there's some potential with some of these guys.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll know a lot more in August.
Yeah. Next one from Sports Guy Shy. How do you project the running back snap count to shake out? We kind of did this on a previous pod, but I don't think my mind has been changed on it.
No, I think we were pretty close.
Yeah, and the pecking order we had was Swift, Gainwell, Penny, gosh, I forgot his name for a second, and Boston Scott.
Yeah, and I the only thing that would move Gainwell up is Gainwell is the only guy out of all those guys who signed beyond this year. So maybe they'll show some deference to him, but I doubt it.
Yeah, I think he'd just do whatever is best this year.
Yep.
All right, next one is from 1500 Stamped. Who will be the Birds' starting safeties this year, and who is the backup quarterback? Well, the backup quarterback's Marcus Mariota.
1500 Stamped.
We'll move on from that. Starting safeties.
Did this guy stamp 1,500 envelopes?
Maybe.
Who are the starting safeties? It's a good question. I'm bullish on Sydney.
They seem to be too.
I'm going to go Sydney and Reed.
I think that's what it's eventually going to be.
Right.
I think they're going to probably start the season with Terrell Edmonds as a starter.
Could be.
Which I don't think is a bad idea at that position to bring Sydney along slowly. And if you're not getting what you want out of Edmonds and Blankenship, then you put him in there.
And he's got to look good too. So, yeah.
Sydney, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna go Sydney from the jump.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
A lot of ground to make up.
Yes, he does.
Okay.
But I don't know. I'm just trying to be different.
Okay. You've accomplished that. Next one from I'm Not Impressed, KNOT, maybe a boating enthusiast. If you see some free agent additions, which of the following could you see Howie signing? Yannick Ngakoue or John Johnson III? Question mark.
I think that ship has sailed on.
I don't know why John Johnson's available.
How old's Ngakwe? He's only 28.
Ngakwe's become like this Jadeveon Clowney mercenary.
It's unbelievable. How many teams he's been with? The Jags, the Vikings, the Ravens.
Pretty good player. Like him and Brandon Cooks are still
Raiders,
good players, changing teams every year.
Jaguars, Vikings, Ravens, Raiders, and Colts.
I think.
It's 5 teams in 7 years. And he's not a bad guy. I've never heard anything bad about him.
No. The Eagles don't need edge rushers either.
No.
They're kind of full.
Yeah.
They have Derek Barnett as their 5th edge rusher.
Yeah.
John Johnson's a guy who, like, I was shocked to see him still available. He was someone, like, when the Eagles were trying to figure out the safety position at the beginning of free agency, I thought would make some sense. So I don't know why he's still out there.
Yeah, I guess I didn't realize he was.
He's not a great player, but he's pretty good.
He was with the Browns last year?
Mm-hmm.
Why'd they cut him? Or was he just a free agent?
I don't know.
You got 12 picks in 6 years. It's an interesting name.
Yeah, I kind of think the Eagles, they could add someone, but there aren't a lot of, like, the big name guys out there. You know, DeAndre Hopkins doesn't make sense to me.
No.
Dalvin Cook doesn't make sense to me.
No.
So I know those are some of the bigger name guys that people are wondering about, but I don't really see it fitting here.
John Johnson's an interesting one, though.
Yeah, I feel like I'm missing something with him.
How did he play last year?
I thought he was fine.
Oh, Pro Football Focus didn't like him.
Okay.
Maybe that's why he's still out there.
Yeah, I think he's like at least an average starting safety.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah. He
was a pretty high pick, right? He was a 3.
Yeah.
Rams? Interesting. Good question.
Last one here from Andre 9 Elton. Who is the bigger threat to the Eagles in 2023, Cowboys or Giants?
Interesting, because I feel like the Giants are ascending a little bit and the Cowboys, I just don't know. But I still think it's the Cowboys.
I don't think it's close.
And the Eagles don't lose to the Giants and they don't beat the Cowboys. So, or rarely beat the Cowboys. They don't beat Dak, beat Cooper Rush. So, yeah, I think it's the Cowboys. I think the Giants are going to be better.
Do you?
Yeah, I think they'll be better.
I'm not sure they will be.
Yeah, I'm not sure they will be. I think they will be. I have no faith in the Cowboys, in the organization, in the coach, in the quarterback. But the Eagles just have trouble with them. So I think they're the bigger threat. There's talent-wise.
It's a better team.
Talent-wise, I mean, they're third best team in the conference. I don't think they're that far behind the Niners.
I don't either. And I like that we're doing it, and I think a lot of other people are doing it too, including them in the 3 instead of just – a lot of people are like Eagles and 49ers at the top.
I think that's because they're the Cowboys and they
choke.
They choke.
Yeah.
And I hate using that word, but sometimes when the shoe fits,
yeah.
I mean, they just – has there ever been a team that has been so good in the regular season over so long and then just falls to pieces in the playoffs?
76ers. Sorry.
Well, at least they've won a series 4 years in a row. How many? So the Cowboys have won 4 playoff games since '97.
Had some really good teams in there too.
That's insane. Yeah. So yeah, it's the Cowboys, but yeah.
All right.
It would behoove the Eagles to sweep them one of these years. It's been
it'd be nice.
They haven't swept them since 11.
Yeah. And we all know the history about this division, and there hasn't been a back-to-back winner in 15 years, over 15 years.
03, 04.
Yeah.
Almost 20 years.
It's hard to believe.
It really is.
Yeah.
Especially because Washington and the Giants are in the division and they don't.
Well, even the Giants had a stretch there where they were okay.
Yeah.
They're pretty good. They won 2 Super Bowls. They had 2 good years.
But they didn't even have good years.
Yeah,
those years.
I know.
They
got hot.
9 and 7. And
they got like baseball team hot.
Yeah, like Phillies hot. Just like Asante jumped too early. And
yeah.
But yeah.
All right.
Do you think that ends this year? Do the Eagles win the division?
I think so, but you never know.
I'm going to say yes.
Yeah, I think it does, but I've thought that before too.
True.
Yeah, coming off the Super Bowl, I didn't think they'd lose the next year, and they did. All right. Thank you all for those questions. A lot of good ones. We have more coming next week. If you enjoy the Eagle Eye Podcast, please rate and subscribe wherever you get your pods. If you're watching on YouTube, please click the like button, subscribe there as well. That's it. For Roob, I'm Dave. This has been Eagle Eye. We'll talk to you soon.